Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How in the world are you guys? This is your boy, Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation. And guess what? We're back at it again, folks, for another great episode here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. And I'm glad that you guys are here, and I'm glad that I'm here, because we're actually coming from you, or we're coming to you from here. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are here at the Prototype Studio in Wheaton, Maryland, which is located over in the greater Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Wheaton, Maryland is probably, depending on where you're going, 15 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. So if you are a native of this area, or you're very familiar with it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what's going on. If you don't, then for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's Washington, D.C. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit easier. Actually in the booth recording and having a good time, and I'm just glad to be here. You know, I'm glad that you're here. I was here a little bit earlier with Hector. We went out to lunch, but he had to leave a little bit earlier today, so he's not going to be sitting with us today. So it is what it is. I'm okay with it. It's cool. I'm in the booth. We are actually using today a Shure SM58 vocal microphone, which is pretty incredible. This is kind of like those handheld microphones that you see a lot of musicians and singers and comedians. They use this stuff, and they've always trusted Shure because when you use Shure microphones, you're almost guaranteed the best quality that you can get out of a microphone. So when you speak into one of these Shure microphones, you better believe that you're going to get your money's worth, guaranteed. And today, I'm just here. I'm recording, and I'm glad that you're here. Just to let you guys know that I'm still here. And, we definitely appreciate everything that you guys have done for us, all the love and support and everything. We truly appreciate that. And as always, we want to keep asking you guys as a friendly reminder to please let people know about the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Put the notice out there on all your social media platforms, or, tell somebody in person that like a family member or a friend or a coworker. Please let them know, and like and subscribe to our podcast on all of the platforms that we belong to, in the podcasting world, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music or YouTube Music or even Audible. So if you can spread the word around and, support, this podcast and like it and subscribe to it, we really do appreciate that. I feel like, every time that we're actually doing an episode, we actually get somebody that might actually like our podcast and they support us. And they become, loyal listeners and fans, and they just, like them, subscribe, and one person at a time. That's the goal. We get it one person at a time. We know that we're not going to get like millions and millions overnight. It definitely takes time, but we definitely do appreciate everybody that loves us, that supports us, that tells everybody about us. Either again online or in person, and just letting people know that they should give our podcast a chance and a shot. We really do appreciate that. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Obviously, with the format of the show, we got a great episode. lots of things to talk about. We also will have a great Q&A forum. I'm very excited about that. But I wanted to open up this particular episode about why people quit the martial arts. Now, I'm going to put this disclaimer out there. This is not an episode where I'm going to announce that I quit training in the martial arts. I will always forever be a martial artist, and I will keep training until something happens where I am no longer able to train at all. You know what I mean? Like in a physical manner. So as long as if I'm living and breathing and I'm still able to, the wheels are still moving, I'm still going to be training. So you can best believe that. And this is not an episode where I encourage people to stop training in the martial arts and quit. Because as you know, I am a very big, supporter of people training in the martial arts. And we want people to train in the martial arts and to succeed and do well. Because, when we train in the martial arts and we, get to that higher level, not only do we evolve as martial artists and people, in the martial arts studio or gym, but outside of it as well. But there have been a lot of questions that a lot of people have been wondering on what is the reason that people quit the martial arts? What is up in their psychosis? And I'm going to go ahead and explain it because recently I had a conversation with real good friends of mine that are martial artists, and we were talking about it. Now, this is not an episode where, I explain it and then I judge people for it. We're not here to judge. We're just trying to have people understand the situation. Whatever it is that people may think afterwards, that's up to your conclusions. I'm just here to state the reasons, and I thought that this would kind of be a good conversational piece. I came up with 7 particular reasons why people may quit the martial arts. And some of it is going to be very common, and people would know that, and they would think, well, that's a common thing that we heard about, and that's fine. There are some people that may not understand, so I'm going to go ahead and also explain that fact to them. So here we go. In no particular order about why people quit the martial arts. Number 1, martial arts, when it comes to paying that monthly tuition, can be expensive. I mean, we're looking at anywhere between, on a monthly average, between $100 to $500 a month, and that really depends on the program, the system, the amenities, the type of school it is, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, people kind of figure, and it is true that when you cut down the cost of, the tuition, it can work in the sense that if you actually have like family members that join you, then maybe the monthly fees might shrink down a little bit from, let's say, $500 to whatever. But even still, on a monthly average, to some, it is very costly. And to some people, they may not be able to justify it because, with anywhere between $100 to $500, that could help out a lot. Lowering bills like a cell phone bill, or, putting that money towards food or gas to go to work every day. For some people, it's money that they can spend on public transportation, of catching the bus or the train, paying rent, or paying the mortgage. A lot of this money, little or a lot of this money can help out for those reasons. And for some people, they just can't see or justify the fact that, spending that much on a monthly basis for tuition and martial art lessons, they just can't see that. So they decide, well, in that case, I'm probably going to forego it because, for all that money, yes, I understand it because, we do have to pay, per month because, stuff like this isn't free. But at the same time, we do have to look out for ourselves and our well-being. Number 2. To some students in the martial arts, their expectations are not met when it comes to the school that they're training in and their curriculum. Maybe they don't really see eye to eye, or they feel like what they're learning isn't exactly what they thought. And to some students, they feel like, because I'm learning this martial art, and I'm learning it from this teacher or this teacher who's either a black belt or a black belt equivalent, or, maybe even, let's say, for the modern era, I'm studying at this mixed martial arts school or this mixed martial arts school, that I should know everything and anything that I need to know like that within an instant, which that is a stereotype. People do have to understand that it does take time, but, they still believe that, they should be able to know things almost in an instant. And when they don't get it right away, at that very moment, or they feel like nothing is clicking, then they go ahead and they just say, you know what, we have to get out of here. If I'm not feeling like I'm getting something out of the deal, and I don't feel like I'm getting this superpower of martial arts, then it's really not a good investment of my money. So I have to go ahead and get out of there, because, maybe I'm just feeling like, the information is not absorbing into me like the Matrix, like I thought it would. So there you go. Number 3, and this one I've heard a lot, and I do understand this, is that, injuries. Some injuries are even, more severe than you actually think, to the point where it could actually prevent somebody to no longer physically train in the martial arts anymore. Now, I knew a guy, and this is a true story, who started out in the traditional sense of martial arts, learned karate and so forth, got a black belt, but decided to transfer over to MMA, mixed martial arts, and wanted to make that transition. And somewhere down the line, from what I understand, he competed in his, first MMA competition. You know what I mean? That they fought in an octagon and so forth. But what had happened is that he somehow in the fight tore his MCL and his ACL very badly. It was very severe, to the point where he was going to need some surgery to repair it. But when it came to the question, can I still train in the martial arts and be active? The doctor said, you can still be active, but the way that, you actually had this injury was really, really bad. You might be able to, walk again and maybe do some bicycling and stuff like that, or maybe even swimming. But, when it comes to, martial arts and stuff like that, that's definitely going to be out of the question. And when people have those type of severe injuries, people just start realizing that, it's not really worth it to them, that their well-being is more important. So they decide to go ahead and, gracefully bow out and say, you know what, I think that I had enough. I don't want to really further my, well-being and injure myself even more, or, potentially injure myself more or severely. So I have to go ahead and do what is best for me in my situation and just stop altogether. Number 4, people quit because they fear advancement. They feel like once they actually do advance, that it does get harder, and there's a lot more responsibility and a lot more information to learn. And they just feel like, well, if I have to learn more information, and that information is more advanced, I don't know, I feel like I just can't really measure up after that. Learning new things and some things that are really more complex than what I already know, I don't know about that. And then I do understand, because when you do advance in the martial arts, yes, there's more responsibility, and yes, there's more information to learn. Some that are actually, or most, or all really, that are way more advanced than what you learn subsequently. So yes, and they just have that fear, and at that point it's just like, nope, I can't do it anymore, I'm just going to go. So they fear the advancement, and they just say, adios. That's just not me. Number 5, people quit the martial arts because it's the fear of failure. Now, this basically happens, let's say, for example, that if a person tests in a traditional martial arts school, let's say they test in, Taekwondo, and they're a white belt, and they're going to test for their yellow belt, and they do bad that they fail, or they did bad that they actually quit during the test, the exam. At that point, you fail. You didn't pass. And then when you don't pass, then you start fearing like, oh my gosh, because I failed this time, what happens if I go ahead and test again and I fail again? I just can't take that, that level of rejection. It is just crazy, for me to actually go ahead and try to rectify that only for it to not come true and I fail again. And although the concern is there, people still go with their guts, and they just no longer train because of that reason. Have I known so many people in my life that has done that, where they trained, they failed, and then they quit? I know a couple. I wouldn't say that I know a lot, but I could probably, count at least maybe the amount of fingers that I got on my hand are probably the amount of people that I know that actually went that route. So yeah, I definitely understand that. Number 6, why people quit the martial arts is they develop other interests. Other interests that basically took over the martial arts, that, they spend all of their time during that. And let me give you an example. You might have kids, and for some reason, you have them taking martial arts, but then they do other things. Like, I like to do basketball, so I'm actually doing basketball, or I'm doing football, or I'm doing baseball. Some people may be doing swimming or amateur wrestling, whatever type of sport. Maybe they do something outside of sports, like I'm in the theater club, or I do, music, and I'm in a rock and roll band or something like that. They concentrate so much on those activities that they kind of forget about their martial arts training, and to a point where they feel like if that's all that they think about now is just that specific activity, which is another sport or another creative medium or something like that, then, basically the martial arts is leaving them, and they're putting themselves into a situation where, I'd rather focus more on this, or I focus more on that. And that does happen. A lot of people, kind of flip-flop and so forth between once being a person that trained in the martial arts into something else, and they rather, focus on that. Does this happen, commonly? More than you think. I mean, I think that happens a lot towards the generation of, like, preteens to teenagers and so forth, because I feel like that's where it kind of hits the most, I think. Number 7, and the last reason that I think that why people quit the martial arts is they just feel that they got all that they needed in their martial arts training, and, getting the knowledge that they needed, and they no longer need training. And that does happen. Whether if you stop, like, at a green belt or a blue belt or a brown belt, or even when you earn the big one at, a first degree black belt, and you're like, hey, I already achieved so much already, and I got where I needed, and I, at this point, I feel like I don't need to have anything else anymore. That's pretty much it for me. It's time for me to hang it up. It's time to go. And that happens a lot to people. A lot of people feel like, they pretty much got everything that they needed, and they don't need anything else. which is, understandable because some people may feel like they got what they needed, especially when you become a black belt, because, when you earn the black belt, the stereotype is that you know everything. But what about those that, kind of stopped in the middle of the tracks, you know what I mean, and didn't go all the way? Well, they do feel that way too. They feel like they got, as much as knowledge as they learned throughout the months of training. And, the buck stops here for them. The sign is there and they're just like, you know what? I got it. That's it. That's all I needed. And, everything that I learned, I'm pretty sure that, I can use and so forth. And that's it. And I'll just end that portion by just saying that, I do get why people quit the martial arts. I mean, everybody has their reasons. There's always a rhyme and a reason, and it's pretty much up to the individual of whether or not they want to, continue on the quest of training, or they just feel like that's it. At a certain point in time, the only thing that you can do is that you can support them and do whatever. I mean, you can't make the student or the prospective student to train forever. At the end of the day, they are responsible for their own actions and what they do. And if that's the life that they chose, that's the life that they chose. If they do want to train again, they will find themselves to come back. But the real thing that people need to understand is that once you quit and you're in so deep, I will say that sometimes it's hard to come back from that, unless there's this real circumstance that you feel like, you really think that you can, and you really put everything into it, that you dove down into it. But commonly speaking, if you quit, it's hard to come back. It really is. So I'm going to say it like this. Yes, you do have a choice to quit, but I would not advise it. Now, that's where I'm going to stop right there, because I feel like that part could be something that I could use later on for another episode at another time. But, to the people that did quit the martial arts, I wish you guys well. I don't wish you any ill will. A lot of people have their choices, and, you have to make the choice that's best for you in your life. If there's something that's more important than martial arts, or there's just something that just kind of stopped you, where it just prevented you of not training anymore, whether if it's in the physical sense or whatever, we just wish you well. We wish you the best, and we hope that you live life in the best way possible, just like how you lived your life as a martial artist. We're going to go ahead and take a moment, and we're going to stop right here. We're going to come back. We're going to have more of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, talk some more stuff. And don't forget, we have an awesome Q&A session near the end of this podcast episode. You don't want to miss out on it. So, guys, stay tuned, because we're just starting to cook some great stuff here in this kitchen that is called the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. And you want to come back, because it's going to be awesome. Stay tuned, guys. I want to tell you about an amazing store that's really good for all musicians, music enthusiasts, and a whole lot more, which is Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center in Wheaton, Maryland. That's right, you heard it correctly. Since 1958, Chuck Levin's has been actually tearing up the game when it comes to the music scene. And guess what? Since 1958, they have been the store to go to and a must-visit destination for any serious musician passing through our nation's capital. So, if you're actually a person that's in a band looking for a new instrument, such as an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, a bass guitar, or maybe some drums, if you're a DJ looking for like the greatest DJ equipment, such as turntables and so forth, they got you. Hey, are you actually in an orchestra playing a woodwind instrument, brass instrument, or strings? They got you. They got all the classical instruments that you need. And let's not forget, for all my fellow podcasters, need a microphone? They got you. Need a podcasting vocal track recorder? They got you. They got everything, man. And I'm telling you, it's the best place to go. So if you want to check them out, go ahead and do so, because right here at Chuck Levin's, they're the best. Forget the rest. Mess with the best. Located over at 11151 Veers Mill Road in Wheaton, Maryland. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you want to know more about what they have to offer, you can go over to chucklevins.com online or give them a buzz at area code 301-946-8808. Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Like I said before, don't worry about the rest. Mess with the best.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
Yo, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. And we're here again, doing it up for you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed your intermission, your little break. I know that I did. And like I've always said before, when it comes to taking breaks and intermission, for us here at the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, we appreciate it because we take the time to relax, calm ourselves down, get like a little beverage like water or coffee or what have you. And then we just go over the script to kind of see what we're going to be talking about next and review it and make sure that we practice, verbally on what we're going to say, because even though we might have a plan in front of us, it's always good for us, the podcasters, to get like a little practice in. And that's just something that's important to me because let's say, for example, if I'm talking about something that I don't know, I want to make sure that I sound good enough where it's like, hey, he makes sense and the way that he delivered it was good. Or if I'm going to go ahead and talk about something else, something that I know, then, at least, I want to sound like I know what I'm doing, and I want to make sure that the delivery that I present out to you guys is perfect or on point or something to that, degree. And, to keep the ball rolling and to keep in with the same theme, we're still going to go with the martial arts theme. And, I always feel like anytime that I talk about the martial arts, not just necessarily what I practice and what I train in, but just martial arts in general, I feel happy about that. I feel comfortable because that is in my wheelhouse. I could talk about that all day, every day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, because it's one of my passions. It's something that I live for, and I think it's something that's incredible, and it's great. It's absolutely great. This one is going to be aimed for the martial artists out there. And for those that are training in something that is a martial art that has some kind of ranking system, something that's traditional, you know what I mean? And that's going to be about testing for the big one, for the black belt rank or the equivalency on it. For those that actually reach to that level of your training, I want to say congratulations to every one of you guys, because it definitely shows a lot of dedication, time, and perseverance on your part to actually get to that moment in time, that rank that you are in before actually testing for the black belt. If you're like one belt away, you know what I mean? And that's you, and you're about to test for a black belt, hey, well deserved. Not to say that anybody else, that their efforts do not count. Of course they count. But once you actually get to that level where you're the only rank that you have left to test for is a black belt, you know that you are in the point of no return. You know what I mean? It's at that point you went through the door automatically shuts down and locks up And all you have to do at that point is go forward and see what happens. And it's a very big, important step in our martial arts lives to go ahead and test for a black belt. Because when you test and you potentially get promoted, it shows the maturity. It shows the growth and understanding. It shows that you have absorbed the knowledge of what you needed to absorb, at least in the basic level. Because everybody knows when you go deeper in your black belt training, you get even more maturity and you develop more understanding, more knowledge. And at that point, it's just like a new beginning after that, a newer beginning. So, that being said, guys, I want to say that it's great. I salute you. Everybody that, is in the martial arts, when they hear that you're about to test for your black belt, and that's the only belt that, is left in the journey when it comes to mastering your basics, we love and support you. We give you all the love and respect. But a lot of people have always asked the questions of what about the black belt? Do you have any tips or advice when it comes to preparing for a black belt test, or just going in the black belt test? Like, is there a trade secret, or is there just some kind of secret ingredient that kind of helps me to get there? What's the secret sauce? I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to give you guys some advice because, during my years of training in the martial arts, I've always asked myself that question. And it's something that I felt like this is something that I came up with. And it's something that, a lot of other friends of mine that are martial artists that are also black belts or black belt equivalent ranked, we all kind of came up with some ideas and some thoughts together. So, because of that, it helped me to formulate what I'm about to present to you guys. Now, I do have to stress that, when it comes to, the martial arts and the martial arts journey, everybody's journey is a little bit different. You know what I mean? Everybody has a different type of thing. Everybody has a different way of doing it and so forth. So there is a lot that goes on. There is a lot of things that are going on. And it's very important for people to understand that, what I'm going to suggest may work for certain people. It's not going to be working for everybody. This is not like a foolproof plan that works 100% for everybody. However, I think that these are tips and advice that I give that does make sense, and if people are willing to listen to it and to try to implement it, that's awesome. You know what I mean? The only thing I can say after that is that whatever happens, the results may vary, and it's not guaranteed. But I'm going to give you a little bit of advice on what to do when it comes to testing for the big one, for testing for that black belt. Things that one must focus on in order to get closer to the journey of black belt. But just by touching the black belt with the by their fingertips of their hand, and then eventually grabbing it, earning it. That's what it's all about. So let me go ahead and give you some tips, some advice, things that you must focus on, or things that you can implement in order to help you understand the situation of testing for the black belt, and things that you can do in order to help you build a higher chance of a higher success rate of earning that first degree black belt, or any black belt for that matter, or a black belt equivalency. So let's go ahead and review. I got 5 things here that I've thought about. And some of it's going to be common sense. A lot of people will be like, well, I could have told you that. And that might be true. Some other people may be like, oh, well, I never thought of it about that way, or in that perspective, or I don't know. So here we go. Tip number 1, when it comes to testing for black belt, I think it's very important, number 1, to consult with your head instructor or grandmaster of the martial arts school, because they've seen you train and they've seen you grow. They've seen a lot of things that you do. They notice a lot of things, that what you have done well and certain things that you need to improve on. They can also advise you on things that you need to do in order to prepare better. And I think it's very important. Say for example that, you're trying to do some material like learning forms, and you do certain things in the form and you think you got it all right, but they notice something there's like something like that's amiss a little bit, something that might be like, hey, you're supposed to do this technique this way, or you're supposed to do this technique that way, or that's the wrong technique. It's their responsibility. Besides your responsibility, you have the responsibility first and foremost to know everything, but it's their responsibility to make sure that you get the information and the knowledge that you need in order to be prepared for such tests and exams. Because when you test under them, and their name and their school is on, is going to be imprinted on you. It's basically on the line. So, when you do test and when you do pass, it's like, hey, we give you that approval because you did exactly what you needed to do and how to do it. If you somehow did not pass, then they bear the responsibility, and they refuse at that point to let a second failure ever happen again, if it ever went that way. We don't want people to fail. We want to say that right now. We want people to pass. And the best way, number one, is to go ahead and talk to your head instructor or grandmaster. Get the advice, listen to their wisdom, because they've been training in the art for years. The art that you train in right now, they've done it for years. They've done it before you were even born in that school. You know what I mean? So it's very, very important to listen to your head instructor, to your grandmasters, and let them, allow them to fill your cup. Make sure that your cup is empty so that when they pour, from their cup to your cup, you are absorbing it and you are making sure that everything is on point. You have a better understanding and you can go like, oh, wow, that's what he meant or she meant. Yes. So consult with your head instructor and grandmaster. It's very important. Number 2 on, advice on testing for a black belt or testing for the big one, if you will. Second tip is to train on your materials of, on what you need to be tested on, such as forms, katas, one-step sparring. Maybe you are going to be tested on vocabulary and intellectual information. Also, make sure that, you have everything that you need to know, so that way that when you actually test and you're on, on call, and they tell you to do this, this, and this, or they ask you questions, you'll know it. You know what I mean? Training is very, very important because it helps you to be better prepared when it goes down. If you don't train, if you don't get prepared, how are you expected to actually pass and earn your first degree black belt? It's like taking a test in school. You want to go ahead and get a good grade. Well, guess what? You have to prepare. You have to train your mind. You have to absorb the information and read all the context that's in your notes, in your book, wherever that you had the information. You got to read, study. Because if you don't, that is a sure way, unfortunately, that you will not pass and earn your first degree black belt, or your second degree black belt, or your third degree black belt. And, all I have to say is, you don't have to take my word for it. But, it has happened before to many people. None that I don't know. None that I know. But it probably has happened. Somebody probably thought, hey, because I got to this point and I'm about to test for a black belt, it's an automatic win and I'll get it. Yeah, nothing is guaranteed, guys. Nothing is guaranteed. The best way, the best weapon to be prepared to go into this black belt examination and to test and to earn your first degree black belt is to train and practice. It's very important. Very, very important. You know, all I have to say is, like, you know, when it comes to training, it's mind, body, and soul. Everything has to work together. Everything has to click. You don't have that, I don't know what more I can say other than your chances of passing at that point may decrease. So train. Tip number 3 on testing for the big one, for the black belt, you know, what I've been told, and it's true, is work on that cardio. Work on your cardio training. And I'm telling you, when it comes to cardio training, it is important. Depending on your school and depending on the system, cardio training is very important. You know, when it comes to maybe doing a lot of drills like kicking and punching and doing a lot of stuff, forms, etc. You know, you're going to use a lot of energy and a lot of gas. And, you know, with cardio training, you're developing capacity in order for you to actually hold more energy and hold more endurance so you can last those tests. And the best type of cardio training that, you know, people have done, some people have done running, walking, maybe they've done biking, or, like, you know, go on an exercise bike, a stationary bike. Some people have done swimming and jump roping. Anything that has to do with anything with you know, cardio, you know, enhancing your cardio and your air lung capacity, that's going to help out. Even, I would even say that if you decided to go ahead and, you know, there's going to be a day and you're allowed to attend more than one class per day, do it. You know, it's very important because, you know, all that kicking, you know, and all that training, it's opening your lungs a little bit, so it's very important. You know, I used to be in a situation was when I was testing for my first degree black belt and I knew that my time was coming, I would actually go to every class every day, whether it was an all belt class, a white belt class, the yellow and green belt class, and then the advanced class, which is blue, brown, and black belt class. If there was a forms class that night, I would go ahead and do it. If it was a sparring class that night, I would do it, just because it's going to increase my chances of opening up my cardio a little bit. So these things do matter. You know, cardio and having that, you know, cardiovascular, it's like, you know, the gasoline in the interior. You know, if you don't have you know, a lot of holding capacity for your endurance, that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a problem. That'll be like you just started the test and maybe like let me give you the benefit of the doubt. 15 minutes later, you know, you might gas out. That's bad. That's really bad, and you don't want that to happen. So, you know, work on the cardio, work on, you know, make sure that you train on your cardio, do everything that you can. Even, let's say, again, and let me give you, you know, something that I did. I didn't like running, not by a long shot. I still hate running, you know, but I did everything else. You know, I was doing a lot of walking, I was doing a lot of biking. You know, when I was in the gym, I did a lot of the elliptical machines. You know, it to me, that was a good thing. And even just doing like a lot of jumping jacks and shadow boxing, that helped out too. So anything that you can do to really, you know, develop more of a cardio capacity inside your body so that you can prepare for the test, it's worth it. It is worth it. Tip number 4 for testing for the big one, for the black belt, is to breathe and remain focused. Sometimes, you know, we get a little bit over in our heads internally, and we start to have a little bit of nervousness. Some may call it anxiety and so forth. You know, breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out. You know what I mean? Because the more times that you do that, you slow your heart rate down a little bit. You start to, you know, come down and back to the center. And you start to realize slowly that, you know, breathing is important because it creates that energy. It creates that is the gas of life. And if you don't breathe in, if like Mr. Miyagi said in Karate Kid Part 2, no breathing, no life. Exactly right. When you breathe, you calm yourself down. You're actually alive and you can think a little bit better. And sometimes you can even remain calm sometimes. So breathing, guys, it's very important. And remain focused. Understand the task at hand. Understand that, I must keep my eyes on the prize and I must do everything and anything that I can in order to achieve this rank. So that means I got to focus on my training, working on forms, working on my kicking, my one-step sparring, whatever. I got to remain focused and work on my cardio training and just, stay focused mentally by having a very good, positive attitude. That is what I must do. That is what I must do. Which actually correlates into the last thing, the last piece of advice on testing for the big one, for the black belt, is to just never give up. When you never give up, that means that you're very determined in order to, get yourself where you need to be. You're determined, that you're going to do well. You're determined that, that this is it, and you're ready to go. And that you're not looking back, that you're looking forward. And when you don't give up, I almost guarantee that 99.9999%, that's going to guarantee you passing, is to not give up. The other 0.0001% is all in, the other work. But you have to have that proper mentality of saying, I am a warrior. I'm going to do my best. If I mess up, it's okay. I can come back to it. But I have to remain focused and I have to do it. I cannot give up. Because when you give up, that is the end. And you don't want to be at the end. You want to create beginnings and you want to create a new opportunity. That is very important, guys. At least that is what worked for me. And some of these things have worked for other people that I know, and it could possibly work for you too. Whether or not, if you take the advice or not, that's up to you. And if you do, just remember that, the results may vary. So what are you going to do? Are you going to, create your opportunities and you're going to make it shine and do the best that you can? I think so. At least that's my thought. We're going to go ahead and take a pause for the cause. When we come right back, your favorite part of the show, your favorite segment in mine, the Q&A form, the question and answer. Yes, you asked it. I will answer it. And I can't wait. So guys, go ahead and take a break. Do what you got to do. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, it's on for round 3. The last round of this whole battle that is an episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. And I just can't wait, guys. So go ahead and do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. Come back because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is coming back. All right? We'll see you in a bit. In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Coming back from our break, and we definitely liked it. And, you know, this is it, the final round, the round of it all. You know what I mean? For this special fight, if you will. That is the episode. But real quick, we do have a friendly reminder, everybody, that... let's go ahead and do this because I have this written down. The Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is asking for assistance on a voluntary basis to anyone out there that would like to help us out with our podcast show by the ways of sponsorship and or financially donating to our podcast show to help increase the quality of our podcast. You know what I mean? In order to help make it better. Any proceeds or money that we raise will go to, you know, getting more equipment, you know, better equipment for the stuff that we need, such as microphones for our in-studio guests, XLR cables for those microphones, headphones for our, for our guests when they come in studio. We're also trying to raise up money for like a better computer, like a better MacBook Pro, so that we can actually create and edit the episodes of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience a lot better. So, this is the part where we insert the joke. Whatever that you can donate is appreciative. Like example, and I don't think that anybody would do this. If you wanted to donate $5 million, that would be awesome. But I don't think that that would happen. But if you even donate as little as like $5, it's cool, and every little bit helps. And we do appreciate your support. Again, it's on a voluntary basis. You can do it whenever you want. However you want and how many times that you want. Now, in order to make a donation, you can go ahead and find us out on PayPal and Venmo. Just look us up under the screen name at KimHoangMDActor, which is once again at symbol KimHoangMDActor, or go to our CashApp and donate to our screen name, $KimHoangMDActor. Once again, it's the $KimHoangMDActor. And yes, this is it, folks. The main event of the evening. You heard it first. We have our world famous Q&A. That's right, the question and answer forum. You ask the questions, I will answer them. We have 7 of them. They're pretty good. I got a chance to take a sneak preview. Most of it is actually martial arts based, so I'm really excited about it because, again, this is in my wheelhouse. I like talking about martial arts. It's something that I do. It's something that I love. So let's go ahead and do it. In no particular order, let's begin. Question number 1. Kim, I'm thinking of removing my entire family, including myself, from the current martial arts school where we train at, in order to go to another school. What are your thoughts on this matter? Richard from Dayton, Ohio. Richard, I would say this, buddy. If you have a reason for it, then it's got to be valid. You know what I mean? If you put a lot of thought into it, I do get it. Some people leave because maybe it might be a financial situation where they think that the money works better over from one school rather than the other. Some people think that maybe they're not getting the good quality of martial arts education that they're looking for, or maybe they don't get along with certain instructors, and it's just a real hard time. So I get that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a little bit more common now these days for people to switch schools. It's kind of as common as drinking water. So the best thing I would say is that, just think about it. Don't act so rashly. Take time to think about it. And if you have, justifiable evidence and reasoning, and if you have receipts on why you want to get out of that school and switch to another one, that's totally fine. Don't do it for the fact that, it's a hot trending school or this or that or everything. Again, think about it, take some time and then make your choice from there. Question number 2, Kim, for a Taekwondo uniform, specifically speaking, the World Taekwondo Federation, for that type of uniform, what brand do you recommend? Liz from Glens Falls, New York. Oh my gosh, Glens Falls, New York. Whenever I think about that specific part of New York, I always think about the former WWE wrestler turned Hall of Famer, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho! So, Hacksaw, that's for you. And Liz, to be honest with you, I've tried a couple of brands, but the ones that stick by me the most, that I think are the best type of uniforms for like Olympic style Taekwondo, also known as the World Taekwondo Federation, I like Adidas and I like Mutu. Adidas, I feel like, are the forefathers of like Olympic style Taekwondo uniforms, and they make quality uniforms, and it's great and it's durable, and not a lot of people have a lot of complaints about that. Mutu just comes in a close second. It's a newer company, but they do pretty well. But the only thing that I don't like about Mutu is I feel like it's a little bit more expensive. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people gravitate a little bit more towards Adidas. So I would just say Adidas is number 1, and then Mutu is number 2. I don't know any other type of uniform brands. I've heard about a couple of them, like Dido. I heard that they're okay. And I think Century Martial Arts at one point had made Olympic style Taekwondo uniforms, but although it's been said that, at least from Korean stylists that practice that specific style of Taekwondo, that's probably not the best brand of uniform to go for Olympic Taekwondo. So there it is. Question number 3, Kim, are you a pumpkin spice guy? Jesus from Austin, Texas. Jesus, absolutely. And especially since recording at this point in time, we're in October now, in the beginning of it, which probably by the time you listen to it, it's mid-October. It's awesome. It's the perfect time to do it, from September till like November. Maybe I'll give December because it's like a little bit of a pass. Pumpkin spice is in. I like pumpkin spice lattes and coffees and cheesecakes and stuff like that. I even tried a pumpkin spice ice cream. I was really shocked about that, but it turned out to be pretty good. But yes, I am a pumpkin spice guy. Not to the point where I want to have it every day of the year. It just has to be seasonal. But yeah, I am a pumpkin spice guy. Question number 4, Kim, what is your advice for anyone who will compete in a martial arts tournament for the first time? Kathleen from Roswell, New Mexico. Wow. You know what? They had a show called Roswell. I just don't know when. I think it was probably in the 90s and the 2000s, but I do remember that. As far as that question goes, Kathleen, I think it's great. And I think the best thing that you can do is just testing for a black belt. You want to go ahead and train, and you want to prepare and do your very best. And then when you come over to compete in the martial art tournament, at that point, you pretty much did everything that you could do with the amount of time that you allowed with your training. So let your training be your representation and show how effective your training is. And just remember, you're out there to do well, to represent your school, and to have fun. If you don't do well, it's okay. No worries. But if you do well, that's an extra added bonus. So that's what I would say. Question number 5. Yeah. Kim, why do people scream in the martial arts? Wally from Olathe, Kansas. There are a lot of reasons why they do that. A lot of people scream in the martial arts for like intimidation. A lot of people scream because they want to display the power of their technique when they do like forms and katas and stuff like that. So it does have a little bit of a purpose. You know what I mean? It's not to like, really be like, all wild and super energetic. But, it does serve that purpose of like, when you're pretending to be in a combative stage, you're screaming to show the intimidation to your opponent. And you're showing how much power and emphasis that you have in each technique, you know what I mean? So that's basically why people do scream in the martial arts. I'm giving you like the little bit of the Reader's Digest version, like the quick answers. But I think those are the most effective answers. All right. Question number 6. Ooh, okay. Kim, do you think that anybody that trains in the martial arts in a martial arts school should at least compete in a martial art tournament once in their life? Nicolette from Athens, Georgia. Oh, nice. Athens, Georgia, home of REM, one of my favorite bands of all times. Nicolette, this is kind of like a this question, I get it. You know what I mean? I think it's cool. And let me explain why. Because, there are two sides of it. There's one side where a lot of people feel like, when you're in the martial arts, it's not really that important to compete in martial art tournaments. And I do understand that because there are some people that don't like that. They just want to learn the art. And that's fine. But being the person that I am, I do encourage people that if you are a martial artist, training in the martial arts school, and you've never competed in a tournament, I really think that, you should really jump in there for the opportunity to do it, at least one time, if anything, especially like the black belts. If you've never competed in a martial art tournament, this is the time I feel like you should do it, because all that hard work, all that training, to absorb the information, and what better way to kind of test that knowledge and the theories and so forth than competing against, fellow martial artists and, doing that in front of like, your peers and contemporaries. If you compete at least one time, you at least have something in your belt saying that you competed one time. And whether or not if you actually earned something like a trophy or not is irrelevant. But to say that you actually competed and actually did your best, I feel like, you can do that like one time, and I don't think it's going to, do anything bad. If anything, it will definitely help you out in the long run. You know what I mean? At least to, once again, test your knowledge and to test the philosophies that you've learned and put it into an actual, realistic, combative situation, that is actually controlled and in an environment where it's safe. So there you go. Wow. Last but not least, question number 7. And I'm really like flying through these questions today. This is awesome. Kim, if you started learning Taekwondo with Teacher A, of whom you earned a black belt from, and then learned another style of Taekwondo from Teacher B, earning a black belt from that teacher, can you still say that you were a student of Teacher A, the first teacher? Kenny from Nome, Alaska. why do I feel like this type of question is like reminding me of like, you know, the SATs, you know what I mean? Because I really feel like this is that you know, it's going in that direction, you know what I mean? That's where I feel. Okay. I would say this. If you learn Taekwondo from teacher A and earned a black belt from that teacher, knowing that you're currently with teacher B and being a black belt under that teacher, I think that it's safe to say that, you know, that you were a student of teacher A, but you're not currently their student now because you're not training with that teacher. You know what I mean? And I think that's fair to say because, like, there are things in life where, you know, let's say, for example, if I was learning karate and I was learning Shotokan karate, you know what I mean, from one teacher, and then I was in, you know, another, like, I was still in karate, but I was in, like, you know, Goju-Ryu karate, you know, but I earned black belts in both arts. You know, it's fair to say that you were a student, you know, of that first teacher. You know, even though that you're not training with that teacher anymore, you were still their student, but you're just not, you know, you're no longer their student. You're not an active student. And I think that's fair to say, you know, rather than certain people. I don't know if this is like, you know, any martial arts school that does this. I'm just like, you know, throwing stuff right there in the sky and say, you know, if you earned a black belt under one teacher and you're no longer currently training with that teacher, you know, there have been some moments where, you know, that one teacher would say, yeah, that's not my student. You know, I got him or her under that one rank, but that's not my student. And I feel like that's a little bit unfair. You know, I think that the teachers are there to provide a road and a path for the student. And wherever the student goes in life, you know, that's where they take it. You know, obviously they want to show you respect in the sense that, you know, you guided them to where they needed to be. But, you know, at the end, you know, it's the road that they take. You know what I mean? So I think it's fair to say that you were a student, you know, and I think it's okay, you know, even though that you might have went separate ways. But the fact that you did learn under that one teacher, I think that's fair. Wow. That's it. That's all that I got. And as we say in the business, that's a wrap. Oh my goodness. Yes. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. So that's all that I got, guys. Let's go ahead and close it up and wrap it up, guys. You can find us on a lot of social media. On Facebook, you can find us on Facebook. Just go under the search box and just type in the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Like us and follow us. We'll follow you back. We're also on Instagram and on Twitter, now known as X. You can find us over at our screen name at TKHPC Experience, all in one word. Once again, that's TKHPC Experience, all in one word, lowercase letters. You follow us and you follow us back. We are also on a lot of social media platforms. Now, before I mention it, I just want to say, please like and subscribe to the following platforms, you know, because we really do appreciate a lot of people following us. You know, that's just another listener that loves our stuff and wants to support us. We do appreciate that. So like us and subscribe to us on, you know, a lot of the podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We also have Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and we also have Audible, which is a podcasting and an audiobook platform powered by Amazon. And you can get right now, if you sign up with them, and if you never had a membership with them, you can have a free trial membership for 1 week. And then if you like it, you can be like a full-fledged subscriber to that podcasting and audiobook platform for $15 a month. It's a good deal. You can't beat it. You get 2 services for the price of 1, and I think it's totally incredible. You know what I mean? Now then, do us a favor. If you have Spotify, please give us a 5-star ranking. If you have Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star ranking and a positive written review. The purpose behind that is that when you actually do that for both of those podcasting platforms, then our podcast will be jumping over to the front lines. And then, when you see it, somebody could be like, oh my God, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. That's what George was telling me about. I should like and subscribe to it. Yes, like and subscribe to it. Do whatever that you can with it. Also share it with people. Share it online through social media, Facebook, Twitter, now known as X, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of that stuff, man. And tell tell people in person, like your friends, family members, co-workers, you know what I mean? Because sharing is caring. It's brand awareness. We want to get the word out. We definitely want to get the word out. Finally, if you want to be a special guest host, if you have any questions for our Q&A forum, or if you have any constructive criticism, please email us at the KimHoangPodcastexperience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, go ahead and type it in the subject box, whatever the subject is. Body of the email, go ahead and type in whatever it is you need to type in. Send it out, and we will get your email, and we will read it, and we will get back to you within 2 days or less, because we do like, all the emails that we get. We do like to respond back, in proper correspondence. And that's just how it works. Guys, it's been real. I really appreciate you being here, and it's been fun. Please be safe out there. Make the right decisions in life, because it doesn't do us any good if we make the wrong decisions in life, especially, decisions that might cost you to go and get buried 6 feet under. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to be in a good spot and a great spot. We want you to enjoy life and love life, because you deserve it. You really do. And because we care about you and we love you so much, why not get your cake and eat it too? You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's it, guys. So, I'm out of here. Thank you so much. Reporting from dun, 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 dun. And I want to say this once again, from the Prototype Studios in Wheaton, Maryland, not far from the Washington, D.C. area. This is your host, Kim Hoang, the Asian Sensation, saying thank you so much. God bless you. We love you. We're going to do it again real soon, guys. And it's been a pleasure, creating more content of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience to all of you guys. It's been fun, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. God bless y'all. Deuces. I'm out. Peace.